Good afternoon, nice quick one for your Friday, a quickie with Geoff on Friday. This is from Autocar. New car sales figures and waning EV market prompt a call for urgent government support amid serious concerns. Don't forget, in the new world of woke culture and, where we are now, if your substandard product isn't selling, instead of making a better product that people actually want, you've just got to go to the government to ask them to force the people to buy it. That's the way it works. But let's take a look at the article. Demand from private buyers for diesel cars was more than for EVs in September, leading industry bosses to renew calls for urgent government support amid serious concerns that a waning electric car market is putting environmental ambitions at risk. You're not bothered about the environment when you can't afford bread. But we'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge when we can't afford it. During the month, private diesel sales increased 17.1% compared to September 2023, a volume uplift of 1,367 cars, which was in contrast to the powertrain's 7% year-on-year sales drop. Private EV demand also rose, driven by unprecedented mandate-chasing manufacturer discounting, albeit by only 3.6%, equivalent to just 410 additional registrations. So, 1,367 more diesel cars were registered in September and just 410 additional EVs, which it says is driven by unprecedented mandate-chasing manufacturer discounting, which is clever speak for they are reducing the prices of EVs so much it's becoming hard to resist for some people. Unprecedented mandate-chasing manufacturer discounting. They have got to get rid of this mandate. The manufacturers and the dealers need to stand up to the government. This rise comes despite a record month for EV sales, which increased 36.8% year on year to 56,387 sales, 76% of which were made up by fleets. So only 24% of EV purchases are private buyers. The problem that you've got is when that 76% of those fleet cars come into the private market in 3 years when the lease is up, there is nobody there to buy them. This is why depreciation is such a huge problem for EVs. This is why oversupply is such a major issue in, Auto Trader and everywhere. They cannot sell second-hand EVs because the buyers are simply not there. September's record EV performance is good news, but look under the bonnet and there are serious concerns as the market is not growing quickly enough to meet the mandated targets, said the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders boss Mike Hawes. Those mandated targets reference the UK government's new emissions regulations that will heavily fine car makers if they fail to meet a 22% EV sales mix, a figure that will rise each year. So for every 10 cars that they sell, 22% of those have got to be an EV. And the issue that they've got is it's just not happening in new cars. Hawes added, despite manufacturers spending billions on both product and market support that the industry cannot sustain indefinitely, market weakness is putting environmental ambitions at risk and jeopardising future investment. What he's saying there is, basically what he's saying is we can't keep discounting cars. Let's not mince our words here. That's exactly it. Mike Hawes is saying that the manufacturers cannot afford to keep heavily discounting cars just so that they can tick a box to say that they sold an EV. They are losing too much money. It is going to destroy the industry. While we appreciate the pressures on the public purse, the Chancellor must use the forthcoming budget to introduce bold measures on consumer support and infrastructure to get the transition back on track, and with it the economic growth and environmental benefits we all crave. Why do we need the government to incentivise the purchase of very expensive cars that don't suit everybody's needs? In this age of equity and diversity and inclusion, why is it that we're only focusing on a type of customer that has their own house where they can have a charging point and who can afford to spend the money on an electric car? It actually flies in the face of everything that the woke world is now about, isn't it? Because really, we should be catering for everybody. We should be loving everybody all the time equally, regardless of your race or the colour of your skin or what you like to do with your winkle. Because we seem to be spending a lot of time focusing on people that like to tell others what they like to do with their winkle. But I like to drive an old diesel car and I'm not catered for. I demand my own bathroom. Ahead of the new Chancellor Rachel Reeves' budget later this month, the SMMT and 12 major manufacturers have called for, this is what they want in order to shift these cars: temporarily halving the VAT on new EV purchases, scrapping the vehicle excise duty, road tax, expensive car tax supplement for EVs, equalising VAT on public charging to match the 5% home charging rate, and maintaining and extending business incentives. So once again, the woke agenda has us focusing on a tiny portion of the society. Why should electric car people only pay 5% VAT compared to the amount that we're paying at the pumps for our petrol and diesel? Why don't we do this the other way around? Why don't we reduce the duty on petrol and diesel to bring it in line with all those people that have a 5% home charging rate? That would be much fairer, wouldn't it, in the age of diversity, equity and inclusion. Overall, the UK new car market bounced back following a lacklustre August because everybody's broke and the country's falling apart. But I see that Zelensky is on the red carpet at Downing Street, and that can't be good for the public purse. Not getting into that though. Recording the best figure for a September in post-COVID Britain in what is always a bumper month for the market, given the arrival of new registration plates. Now we're on to number 74, and if you don't know what that is, because you're not from the UK, in the UK we have a registration plate that stays with the car throughout all of its life, and it was always seen as a status symbol if the car on your drive was the latest registration number. But since leasing arrived and cheap finance came along, it really doesn't matter anymore. And if you're the sort of person that takes great pride in having that brand new registration plate on your driveway, have a word with yourself, because it's pathetic. 275,239 cars were sold in September, according to the figures. This represents a slight rise, just 1% on 2023, but it's still down 20% on pre-COVID 2019. It's almost like COVID destroyed the economy and the hope of the people. In the post-COVID world, people are different. Our priorities are different. People have changed permanently. I don't think we could talk about pre-COVID and post-COVID without talking about the changes that people have been through mentally and as humans. We're all much more different people to what we were before that, and our purchasing habits have changed as a result, or at least it should have done. So far this year, 1.5 million cars have been sold, which is up 4.3% on the same point in 2023. September does seem to have been a good month. I'm speaking to people out and about, and I know cars are selling. I know the classic car world is doing quite well for October. Cars are selling, but not the big ticket items. Your classics that we know and love, they're doing just fine. But your Jaguar E-Types and your Austin Healey's and even your Mercedes Pagodas are slow. Pebble Beach had some pretty shocking results at their auction for real posh cars that real posh people buy, because all of the old people who have got all the money are starting to move on to a better place, and the people that are coming through to replace them don't have the same amount of money and don't have the same interest in cars. That is what's going on in the classic car world. In the new car world, well, everybody's being incentivised into EVs, and nobody wants EVs apart from fleets because of the government incentives. Hope that video makes sense. If you would like to buy a car, I can highly recommend an old diesel Volvo, maybe an S60 D5 with a 6-speed manual gearbox. Thank you very much for watching this short Friday video.